In a recent KFF poll, nearly half, 45% of adults in the U.S. reported that their mental health has been negatively impacted due to the worry and stress over the virus. This is an extremely excessive amount of people to have poor mental health. Not a lot of people realize how a pandemic like COVID-19 can affect their mental aspect of a person. Hi, my name's Shalori, and today I'll be talking about mental health during COVID-19. So, mental health is vital during a pandemic. People having to be in quarantine and social distancing has put a huge gap between human interaction. This interaction is what keeps people both sane and keeps people feeling lonely and depressed. Initially, we'll be defining mental health and discussing the symptoms of poor mental health. Secondly, I'll be discussing how to cope with the pandemic and different coping mechanisms to get through a pandemic. First, let's discuss what is mental health. According to the mentalhealth.gov, mental health can include emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Mental health can also be referred to as mental illness. Conditions such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia are most well known. Illnesses like the ones previously explained can affect someone's ability to function every day. Tasks as going to work, going to the grocery store, or even getting up in the morning may be more difficult for someone who suffers from a mental illness. What do symptoms of mental illness look like? When someone has mental illness, they usually don't show very many signs that they are ill. This can be very dangerous for someone's health, especially if they're silent. The MayoClinic.org lists some of these warning signs are excessive mood change, inability to cope with daily problems or stress, major changes in eating habits, and withdrawal from friends and activities. If someone is experiencing these symptoms, get help immediately. The easiest way to get help is to talk to someone they trust. Now that we have a general interpretation of mental health and the symptoms, we will now consider how to cope and what to do during a pandemic. During the global pandemic known as COVID-19, many countries have gone to lockdown. And now that people are in isolation, it's time to get creative and be productive. How to cope with a pandemic. When a pandemic is public, it is very scary and can be very stressful. The CDC recommends to reduce stress in order to not make everyone's situation worse. The best thing to do in this case is to stay calm and keep social distancing. According to healthguide.org, the article suggests that life is filled with uncertainties and it is important to know that you are not alone. Some of the coping mechanisms to help with What are some coping mechanisms to help with COVID-19? When dealing with a pandemic, it's best to stay positive. One way to cope with the virus is to take time for yourself. You may be stuck at home, but that doesn't mean you can throw your health out the window. Another way to cope with the epidemic is to take breaks from watching Netflix and watching the news. Take some time to sit outside and soak up some sun. The final coping mechanism is to stay connected. Make sure to talk to people, whether it be your friends or your family. It is an effective way to stay sane in times where human interaction is limited. The world is filled with negativity right now. The best way to stay sane in a time like this is to have hope and to stay positive. In times like this, in time, we will conquer this virus. But for now, just stay home and keep your head up high. In summary, we've learned what mental health is and the signs of lacking mental health. We've also gained knowledge on how to cope with a global pandemic. I want everyone to start taking better care of their mental state. People can be melodramatic, and these people can make things worse. In times like this, we need to not overexhaust our minds. There is a lot going on, and being negative is only going to make the situation intensify. In the words of Karen Solomon Son, just because life is crazy doesn't mean you must go crazy. You can experience outer chaos and still find inner peace. Nothing even needs to change for you to find calm inside you. The inner calm is available to you at all times. Just breathe. Thank you for listening to my presentation.